Are you considering buying a property and renting it out on Airbnb?
If so, you'll want to watch this video first because we're going to share 6 tips that we wish we knew before we got started. The first tip is to use a property management software, what's more commonly referred to as a PMS. Your PMS is going to help automate running your Airbnb, and there's really 3 key areas where your PMS can help you.
The first area is guest communication. Now, communicating with your guests has the potential to be one of your most time-consuming tasks as an Airbnb. And even though we've automated it, it's still pretty time-consuming for us from time to time. But luckily, your PMS can automate the majority of your guest communication. Now, we send at least 4 different automated messages to our guests, and they range from right after they book all the way up until after they check out.
Automating your messaging is also really great because it makes your guests feel like you're a really attentive host, but it requires literally 0 end on your end.
Zilch!
No, 0 work on your end is what I meant. Zilch! In fact, we get so many people who leave reviews for our properties and mention how communicative I am and not knowing that most of these messages are really automated. So super lifesaver, automate your messages.
One quick tip on automating your messages. Sometimes something might happen with a guest where seeing an automated message afterwards might not make sense.
Yeah.
So most PMS should have an option where you can go in and see all of the scheduled messages that are about to go out to your guests, and then make sure you delete the ones that aren't really representative. So quick side story, we had an issue at our property today where the water heater went out. So the guests checked in, they tried to take a shower and they couldn't shower
Freezing
with hot water.
Yeah.
And one of our messages after they check in says, "Hey, we hope you've checked in, that you're having a 5-star stay." We obviously don't want that message to go out to the guests after we just had a conversation with them about the hot water heater not working. So quick tip, just make sure you're using it for your short-term rental automated messaging as well. Now, the second area where your PMS will help is with calendar syncing. Now, if you're listing your property on multiple booking platforms, then you're 1000% going to need a tool to help you sync your calendars across all of the different platforms. Otherwise, anytime someone books on platform number 1, like Vrbo, you'll need to quickly go and block those dates out on the other platforms like Airbnb. Otherwise, you could be in a position where you have 2 different people booking the same exact dates, which is obviously a terrible experience for everyone. Now, ask me how I know, because we've dealt with this problem before.
So stressful.
And it's very, very stressful. So you want to make sure that you're not giving guests that experience, because it could really negatively impact your search rankings on these platforms when you have to go back and cancel on a guest.
With the PMS, once a guest books on one platform, your calendar is automatically blocked on all of the other platforms. The third area where your PMS will help is with your team management. So the most important team member is your cleaner. We say this all the time, and it's on you as the property owner to communicate with your cleaners so they know the exact days and times that your property needs to be turned. And if you get this wrong, it means that a guest could show up to a house that hasn't been cleaned yet, which is obviously one of the worst things that can happen for a guest and as a host. It's like so embarrassing. That happened recently. Not sure why that happened.
We had the property management software in place, but the cleaner we were using at the time wasn't checking it. So it only works if the people that you're giving it to are actually using it.
We had to fire that cleaner, because of this situation. But if you have this software in place and you have the right team in place that is using it correctly, you shouldn't have that problem. So
you can try and manually manage this communication with your cleaner by sending them a text message every time someone books, but that can get super complicated and really, really time consuming. So just think about it for a second. Every time someone would book, you would have to whip out your phone and send that text message to your cleaner. Now, sometimes you might get a last minute booking, right? So how are you going to communicate that quickly to your cleaner? Or a guest might cancel or alter their reservation. And if it's solely on you as the owner, the property owner, to manage that communication, there's a high likelihood that things just might slip through the cracks.
The great part about having a PMS is that it can automatically notify your cleaner anytime there's a new reservation, and the PMS can even create a custom calendar for your cleaner that shows all of the dates that they'll need to clean your property. So it's super convenient, easy to follow. All of our cleaners have said nothing but positive things, so we love it.
Yeah, and we almost never have to communicate with our cleaners now about the days and times that our properties need to be cleaned. Now, in terms of which PMS you should use, there are plenty of them out there. SmartBnB, Your Porter, IGMS, to name a few. We personally use SmartBnB and we have zero complaints about the product. I know some other short-term rental operators that speak really, really highly of Your Porter as well. But basically just find one that you like, play around with it and go with it.
The second tip is to use a dynamic pricing tool. A dynamic pricing tool is a third-party application that connects to Airbnb and allows you to better control the prices for your property. And the big benefit for you as the host is that you'll make more money by using these tools.
Now, Airbnb does offer something called smart pricing, where it mimics some of the functionality you get from a true dynamic pricing tool. But from what I've seen, most property owners that use the smart pricing feature in Airbnb alone tend to make less money on the platform than those who use true dynamic pricing tools. So here's the reason why these dynamic pricing tools work so well. It's because they use a crazy amount of data to help give you the best price possible. They look at things like the occupancy of your property, the occupancy of similar properties, the current demand for properties like yours in the city that your property is in. If there are any big events happening where they see this kind of surge in demand, they factor that in too, and just so many other factors. And they use all of that data to recommend the perfect price for your property. What's even cool is that there's a lot of customization you can add on top of their recommendations as well.
The third tip is to build the right team. Your two most critical team members will be your cleaner and your handyman. I know we say this all the time, but I'd say your cleaner is probably the number one,
For
right?
sure. Yeah.
Most important team member on your team, because they're the ones that get your property ready for the next guest. And if your cleaner isn't doing a good job, then it's going to impact your guests, which then impacts your entire business model. So cleaners, your ultimate number one.
Right, because if your cleaner's not doing what they're doing, it's going to impact your reviews.
Yeah.
Which ultimately impacts how much money you can make on platforms like Airbnb and Vrbo.
That's what I was trying to say.
Now, when you're looking for a cleaner, the absolute best way to find one is through referrals.
Yep.
Find a cleaner that another investor that you know, like, and trust already, that investor is using and speaks highly of. We cycled through quite a few cleaners as we've built our business, and the best ones have come from referrals.
Also, if you don't know anybody that's investing in the market that you can get a referral from, we highly recommend hopping on Facebook groups. If you're totally new and oblivious to that area, go on Facebook, and I promise that would be a really great number two option.
We also prefer to work with cleaners that have experience cleaning short-term rentals specifically. Now, it's not a deal breaker if they don't, but it is a nice to have. What's most important is that you find someone that's reliable, has high integrity, and a really, really strong attention to detail. Sometimes we would walk our property after it had been cleaned by some of our previous cleaners, and we see things that the cleaner should have caught as they were walking the property. So the attention to detail is definitely important.
All right, and tip number 4 is to ask for reviews. Reviews are the lifeblood of your business on Airbnb, and the more positive reviews you get, the higher likelihood that a potential guest actually books your place.
So Airbnb hasn't shared the exact logic behind their search rankings and how they decide which listings show up on the first page. But they have come out and said that the more 5-star reviews a property has, the higher the chance of your listing showing up on the first page.
So how do you get more 5-star reviews? Well, it obviously starts with making sure that you're giving the guests a 5-star experience at your property.
Obviously.
Yeah. And if you don't, they'll be sure to let you know in their review. Guests are like, if you go to a restaurant and didn't like the service at a store or a restaurant, you're more likely to leave a bad review than a good review. But if you did give your guests a great stay, then what we recommend doing is to straight up ask them for a 5-star review, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We've hosted hundreds of guests, and literally, I think we've only had one person that has ever said that they didn't appreciate us asking for a review. But literally everyone else has responded super positively, and I don't know our total review star count, but It's pretty good.
Now you have to remember, most people hate leaving reviews.
Yeah.
Like, how many places have you gone to where you had a wonderful experience, like Sarah was saying, and you didn't leave a review? So sometimes people just need to be asked directly. So here's how we do it. After a guest checks out, we send them a message and say, hey, whatever your name is, it was a pleasure hosting you in whatever city they stayed in. Thanks for leaving the place in such good shape. If you have anything to share about your stay, pros or cons, we're very interested to hear as we strive to improve the guest experience for everyone. I'll be leaving you a 5-star review tomorrow when Airbnb allows, smiley face, and we would be so appreciative if you could leave a review for us as well. This goes such a long way in helping us continue to build our business on Airbnb. And that's it.
So cute, and literally only one person complained about it. You know what else we do? We also have like little placard signs on the walls in our property, and one of them also says, we hope you're having a 5-star stay or something like that. But there's also a cute little visual in the property kind of reminding them that a 5-star review would be appreciated.
And our password for the Wi-Fi is please leave a 5-star review. So we're very frequently communicating with the guests, so that's what we're hoping to get.
Before we move on to the final 2 tips, we'd really appreciate it if you guys could give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, hit the bell for notifications. We're still a new channel, and really every new subscriber does mean a lot to us. So if you're enjoying the content, please, please, please hit subscribe.
Lastly, please do connect with us on Instagram. I'm at Tony J. Robinson, and she's at Sarah Rad. So tip number 5 is to share your listing with everybody that you know. Now, there are a few reasons why you want as many eyes on your new listing as possible. First is that it gives you a chance to ask everyone to heart your listing on Airbnb and add it to their wish list. Airbnb has also stated that the number of wish list saves that a property gets has a positive impact on where your listing ranks in the searches. So ask all your friends and family to support you by adding your listing to their wish list on Airbnb.
Sharing your listing also benefits you because you'll get a second set of eyes to take a look at your listing. People might be able to provide helpful feedback on your photos, your headline, your description, or your entire listing. So it's really nice to get extra set of eyes to take a look at that.
Now, last but not least, and this is a big one, but you need to list your property on more than one platform. Now, there are a lot of short-term rental hosts and operators that rely solely on Airbnb for 100% of their business. But you have to ask yourself, what happens if something goes wrong with your Airbnb account? I've seen countless people mention that their Airbnb account has been temporarily disabled, or even worse, that they've been banned from Airbnb altogether.
And what's worse is that Airbnb doesn't even have to tell you why they disabled your account or banned you from the platform.
Now, imagine if you only ever listed your property on Airbnb. If you get banned, that means that 100% of your income comes to an immediate stop. But if you're listed on other sites like Vrbo or Booking.com, then at least you've got a backup option in case something happens with Airbnb. You know, a successful entrepreneur once told me that 1 is the most dangerous number in business. As an entrepreneur, you never want to have 1 of anything. Always make sure you have a backup. And it's the same, idea that applies to putting your property on multiple booking platforms.
So that's it. We hope you got some value out of today's video. And if you have any questions about the tips that we talked about today, please drop a comment and let us know. If you like this video and you're thinking about hosting, be sure to watch our video where we break down exactly how to buy your first short-term rental.
So that's it for today, guys. I'm Tony.
I'm Sarah, and we are in our living room.
And we're also the Real Estate Robinsons.